It was, and you probably already realized this, a year ago tomorrow that Tim Russert, NBC's Washington bureau chief, the moderator of Meet the Press, the light of the political coverage on this network and that one, died on the job at the age of 58. Our number one story, remembering him not in sadness but with privilege. We will bring you an updated version of our farewell from that night. But first, one note that I think deserves mention finally about the coverage on that sad Friday afternoon, which, like this one, portended summer and the politics that Tim Russert ate up like the finest dining. We deliberately held back reporting that awful news until we were absolutely certain everyone in his family, particularly his father, had been told. What that created, of course, was an unbelievable strain on two of our people in particular. The anchors who were on the air that afternoon, knowing, as we all did, that Tim was gone, but knowing, too, that they could say nothing. And then when the time came for something to be said, it would be said by others, that they had to plow through, hearts breaking, without even the promise of the relief provided by the opportunity to say their goodbyes on the air. It was the ultimate test of professionalism, and Monica Novotny and David Schuster passed it with honors. And I think Tim Russert would have agreed, and I think that would have been the greatest honor of them all.
Just months before his passing, Time magazine called him one of the 100 most influential people in the world. Tim Russert got a mighty laugh out of most of life, and for all his influence, for all of the razor-sharp insight of his questioning and the encyclopedic knowledge of politics he carried in his head, the Tim Russert we knew and you knew was defined by how much he enjoyed by what he did.
Where's that guy with the...
that guy.
It fueled him, and it made his work on Meet the Press, on election coverage on NBC and MSNBC, and in his writing, pulsate with vigor and enthusiasm.
Let me start you with the same simple question. Did it just end tonight?
We now know who the Democratic nominee is going to be, and no one's going to dispute it, Keith. Tom, actually, all Al Gore needs is Florida. All George Bush needs is Florida. They need Florida. Florida, Florida, Florida. Let me show you one more time, Tom. This is it, right here. Florida, 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 Florida.
The dry eraser board and the infamous 2000 Gore-Bush election. Every list of the most memorable moments in television history includes that. Typical Tim Russert. As the technology increased and overwhelmed the news, he alone had the presence of mind to throw on the brakes and reduce the chaos of that election night to terms and means that were unmistakably clear.
If you just stayed with these simple boards, you wouldn't have those problems, those highfalutin computers, Tom. This is the answer.
But the elections, however much his insight and his wit shined within them, they were the unusual. 1 hour a week belonged to him and him alone.
From NBC News, this is Meet the Press with Tim Russert.
Mr. Duke, please. All right, in terms of economic development, the condition of your state, how many people in your state live below the poverty line?
A great percentage. So we have the highest per capita percentage in the country, just about the last 5 states of the country.
How many?
I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, sir. Sir, I don't carry around an almanac with me.
Well, if I told you it was 25% of your state live below the poverty line, would you believe me?
I could believe you, yes,
Are these the kinds of things the governor should know?
Since December 1991, Tim Russert had moderated Meet the Press, one of the once great franchises in one of the once great formats of television, a program and a format that had to some degree lost relevance. He gave it back that relevance, and more.
So if the CIA said to you at that time, Saddam does not have weapons of mass destruction, his chemical and biological have been degraded, he has no nuclear program underway, you'd still invade Iraq?
Because Tim Russert was born in Buffalo, New York on May 7th, 1950. No city has ever been prouder of a native son, and no son has ever been prouder of his native city. It was not just Meet the Press that made Sundays special for Tim Russert. That was also the day the Bills usually took to the gridiron.
You gotta believe, you cheer for the Buffalo Bills and they win. I will not mention them on Meet the Press for 1 year, I promise. And most important, you'll make this guy, my dad, the happiest guy in the world.
Tim Russert's career in politics began when he served as an aide to Democratic Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan of New York. Senator Arlen Specter saying that Tim Russert's years on Capitol Hill gave him special insights on political and governmental issues. The Pennsylvania Republican adding that had he chosen law as a career, his cross-examination would have made him a star in that field as well. Fellow New Yorker Governor Mario Cuomo writing that appearing on Meet the Press is today as vital to a serious candidate as being properly registered to vote.
I got it from John McCain.
More than 4 million Americans every week agreed. Tim Russert, another member of the family on Sunday mornings, which is how Tim would have wanted it. To him, there was nothing more important than family. To know Tim Russert was to know how extraordinarily proud he was of his wife, Maureen Orth, an outstanding journalist and author in her own right, and his son, Luke, now a year into his own promising career with us at MSNBC and NBC News. And, of course, how proud he was of his father, the subject of Russert's best-selling 2004 memoir, Big Russ and Me. To his famous son, Big Russ of Buffalo, New York, would always be the real Tim Russert.
Every day after school I worked here, painted these lines by hand, answered the telephone, emptied out the poor box, 70 cents an hour, $15 a week. But if I wanted to go to Canisius High School, I had to earn my tuition.
NBC News has continued for a year without Tim Russert. Meet the Press has continued for a year without Tim Russert. Even election night 2000